Good morning. This is Action News Jax Sunday.
Good morning. It's Sunday, July 21st, 2019. Welcome to Action News Jax Sunday. I'm Paige Kelton. This morning, a conversation with local Congressman Al Lawson. Our Phil Amato spoke with him about his legislative plans and the Democratic race to challenge President Donald Trump.
Mr. Lawson, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here.
Yeah, you bet. A lot of things going on. Of course, you are going for your third term here in a re-election in 2020. You've served already 2 terms. Tell us, what are you telling voters now over maybe the next year or so, what you've accomplished just in a relatively short period of time?
Well, you always want to tell voters things that you have been involved in, such as tax reform. You want to talk to them, which I think is one of the most important bills that we passed with the Farm Bill that we didn't have before, because it provides so much food opportunity for food insecurity for kids and for SNAP benefits and so forth, which is a high concentration of them in this 5th Congressional District. The most significant thing that has happened, when I first got up there, I was dealing with a hurricane in Jacksonville that left a lot of flooding here, providing more dollars to stop some of the flooding that we have. You know, I've asked them to put in about $136 million to stop the flooding on one side of the river. You know, across from the Hyatt, there was no flooding, but in the Hyatt and many of the businesses downtown, Wells Fargo, and especially in scenic Ribault area, a lot of homes were lost. Is to provide there's a way that you can stop it and you can save the government money. And to make sure that the Jacksonville that has spent maybe $23 million of their reserves to get their money back, so that's pretty good.
Of course, we're in hurricane season right now. This $19 billion disaster relief bill was finally passed. The money desperately needed, especially in the Panhandle with the last hurricane we had, right? But it took the Senate so many months to pass that bill. I mean, we finally got the money, but why is it taking so long?
Well, we don't know. Michael was kind of swept under the rug, and we passed a disaster relief package 3 times. And finally, you know, the Senate was able to pass it after 8 months.
Right.
So that 19.1 million not only include North Florida, but includes the Midwest and also out in California area. But we have a serious problem up in North Florida, from Tyndall Air Force Base to all of the other counties around there, where people, some are still in FEMA trailers, some of them sleeping in tents. And so this is going to be real good. So, you know, that was very important. It was hard getting it out, but we really got it out. So I'm real proud of that.
Let me ask you about the Democratic Party and how you think it was represented so far, say in the 2-day debate that we had, last month, and now coming up later on in July. How do you think the party fared, and what do you think of this next debate and what we could expect?
Well, in my opinion, I think it's too many people running. I mean, a lot of my colleagues there, you know, I look up and they're running for president, you know, and so I think that everybody said that, you know, we're going to get along real well, but the gloves are beginning to come off, and that's what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of bruising in this process before it's narrowed down. And, you know, it's a lot of publicity. They're talking about a lot of issues, but primarily with 11 more debates to go, you're going to see the crowd probably thin a little, but it's going to be kind of like it was in the Republican Party when there was a lot of them running. You know, it was not too friendly. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's just like an athletic event. You can be friends, but when you play against each other, even when brothers play against each other, they have to go after the lil. So I think there's going to be some changes, and you just want to say how they come out of it. You know, are you going to come out of united? I think it's going to be very difficult.
Let's talk about some of the bills that you're sponsoring and you're behind. One bill, which maybe we haven't heard too much about, or people have heard too much about, is called a rental bill, an IRA rental bill. Tell us about that.
Well, this is a very significant bill, and I passed it to HUD. Kind of innovative, but one of the things I noticed is that we have a lot of millennials now, and they're renting all over the place. But the problem that they have is they don't have enough money set aside for a down payment on a residence, so they turn to parents and so forth. So I'm setting up a deferred account that they can pay into to anywhere between the neighborhood of $10,000 and $20,000 on a deferred tax basis, earning interest, so they can only use it to purchase a condo or to purchase a home. And so it's not an easy bill, but people are beginning to warm up to it. HUD thought it was a great idea. we're asking them to work with us, and also for a lot of people in public housing. You know, they can afford to pay in public housing, and trying to work with some of the people in public housing so a portion of their rent can be set aside so eventually they can get out of public housing.
So this is a portion of their rent that would be set aside, the portion that they pay usually their landlord. Would the landlord have to agree to this?
The landlord would have to agree to it, but I understand is that many of them, because you're dealing with in public housing a lot of these big companies, you know, which they always say they put money back into the facilities such as Eureka Garden or Washington Heights and stuff of this nature, but most of the time you don't see it happen until people say, you know, I've been dealing with Senator Rubio on bringing her down here because of the problem that we're having at Eureka Garden and so forth. And so they're beginning to change management companies and try to improve them. But, you know, why wouldn't you want to get them, younger people who are in there, the opportunity to get out of Eureka Garden and to be their own homeowner, because they can afford to pay it for what they're paying for rent.
Let's talk about another bill. You're sponsoring a bill, I think, with Representative Rutherford in order to help veterans transition into civilian careers.
Now, that's very important. A year ago when I served on the Small Business Committee, I found out that veterans that were returning didn't have jobs, and why don't we have some incentives for them who are returning to be able to get loans to go into business, give them tax breaks and so forth, so if they don't have any jobs. For example, Jacksonville has probably the largest number of veterans in the state here, and so how do you get them involved in the economic progress of this community where they don't have to leave and they can create jobs themselves, and how can the government really help them set up? So I really think that it's a good bill, and you know, we brag during the election what we're going to do for veterans, what we're going to do for veterans. And so I think with Congressman Rutherford and myself is we don't want to just talk about it with our colleagues, but we want to say, look, we want y'all to support this. I think we can get the kind of support that we need.
You know, it seems like the economy is humming along.
Right.
Wall Street, as of late, almost at record highs or at record highs. Of course, the trade with China is a big thing. Of course, we're looking with Iran, too, with what's going on over there. The future of that, as the first 6 months of the year look good with Wall Street, what do you think with our economy the next 6 months, of course, leading into the election next year?
Well, you know, if you're the president, you always want the economy to be doing good over the next 6 months because you got to run on it. You're right about China. China has been eating our lunch. Recently, I was in South America to let Brazil and Argentina and Honduras know that we want them to continue to do trade with us because the Chinese have moved in and they're buying property and they're causing a lot of problems. And so we have to turn it around, but not only on those fronts and other fronts, you know, which affects our relationship with Canada and other areas because of the Chinese. And so as a result, we need to be strong on that front. Our farmers are beginning to complain. You know, where are we going to sell it to? We have all of this grain and stuff and soybean and stuff. They're not buying us from us. They're buying it from other countries. You know, and so that's one of the things we want to turn around and let them know when we're traveling around the world is that we still want to do business with them, and we're going to make sure that the president pull back on some of the higher tariffs and stuff that he's talking about because it really affects our ability to do commerce and trade.
Representative Lawson, I know you have a big area from Jacksonville all the way into Tallahassee, many, many miles, and you're out there meeting voters, of course. Thanks so much for joining us today, too.
Well, thank you all. It's always a pleasure to come in to see you guys and to have these interviews because to get the news out to people, let them know we're out there working hard.